Hello everybody and welcome to the What's On podcast. This is episode 16. My name is Zachary.
My name is Ryan.
And today we're going to be talking about The Witcher, specifically The Witcher TV series from Netflix, one of Henry Cavill. I think a lot of people, it's one of the biggest shows on Netflix.
At the moment, yeah.
So I think everyone may have an idea of what it is. But obviously start off, news stuff. So one thing I saw recently was Indiana Jones.
Yep.
I thought had died. Really.
So had I.
I thought it'd gone with obviously Harrison Ford being, I don't know what age he is.
He's nearly 80 now.
Getting on a bit. But no, apparently they're doing one more, or at least this Indiana Jones 5, which should be the last one. I thought the last one should have been the last one, but and it's not being directed by Spielberg, although he's staying on the producer. It's a guy called Mangold. I can't remember his first name, but he did Logan and Ford versus Ferrari, which was an Oscar nomination this year. So cross fingers, it could be good.
Possibly, but what I've seen about it is that people are saying, should it actually go ahead? Because all the others have been done by Spielberg, directed it. So with that change, how would it be? But not to mention as well, it's been 12 years since the last film. Yeah. The last film bombed a little bit. It wasn't that good. And that one was 20 years after the others. So obviously, like Harrison Ford, like we said, he's close to 80 now.
Yeah. I don't think it should be... Well, it's the thing, should it be happening, should it be... I don't think it should be happening for the reason of... I don't know how much they can do with an ancient Indiana Jones. I think if they wanted to carry it on, remake it, reboot it with a younger actor. But you never know. The filmmakers, they've got decent people on there. Obviously, Spielberg himself and this Mangold. They could do something different with it, but we'll have to wait and see. But it could be good. You say like, should it be happening because of a different Spielberg? The last Spielberg was rubbish, wasn't it?
It was,
the
yes.
Crystal Skull one. So
it was, yeah. Aliens, fantastic.
So, yes. What was the prize? It was knowledge. Do you want to go movie stuff?
Yeah, one of the things I've seen about another director is the guy that did Doctor Strange, Scott Derrickson. He's interested in directing a film for Constantine.
Interesting.
From the DC Comics.
Yeah.
So he's just done Marvel stuff, and then even though he's just stepped down from the most recent Doctor Strange, even though he's staying on as a producer, he's saying, "Oh yeah, I want to do some DC stuff too."
Yeah. Constantine, the last one was Keanu Reeves, wasn't it?
2005.
In movie terms.
But that in a movie term, but in a way, it wasn't really much DC because there was no one else. In it. It didn't cross over, but I think he wants to try and do a crossover type one. Yeah.
That could be interesting. I've seen a little bit because they did a TV series of it. I didn't watch much of it, but I've seen the character in a couple of things, and he seems an interesting character, so definitely movie worthy. One I had was like we've seen. I think we talked about this at the start of the year when we did the 2020 podcast about this year being like the year of horror genre. Yep. With a couple of things coming out. One we talked about this just before starting was Invisible Man. You're gonna see it later on today.
See it today.
But that looks like a proper. It's not really it is a horror, but it's more on the psychological aspect of a guy tormenting this woman by becoming invisible. Yeah, it looks very interesting, and not the kind of like the Invisible Man, Frankenstein, all that. When you think of that now, because it was made so long ago, you think of like iffy effects and like just loads of gore or something like that. But these takes they're taking on them now seem really interesting. Yeah. Like Invisible Man focused on the psychological aspect.
Exactly, yeah.
And another one that I've seen that they released a trailer a couple of days was Candyman, which again another reboot, really old one. But this again is taking on the psychological aspect of it.
Who's the actor that's playing the Invisible Man? I can't remember his name, but I know he's out of the Haunting of Hill House.
No idea.
Have you never seen that?
No.
The Haunting of Hill House?
No.
Oh. It's one for you.
I've seen the one of High House.
Of High House, eh? Have you now? Yeah.
No.
In High House, eh?
I've not heard of it. What's Netflix, Amazon?
It's Netflix.
Netflix.
It came out last year. Watch it. That could be another episode.
Interesting. Is that good?
It's very good.
Like Gander.
Very, very good. So I'll leave that part out then. But you'll if you see the Invisible Man, there's the actor in it who is the Invisible Man is in the Haunting of Hill House. So I can't remember his name, but his character in it's called Luke. But we'll leave that.
Any more film stuff?
One of the things was that The Matrix 4 at the moment has only just started filming in San Francisco, but they've kind of annoyed some locals and also
some explosion.
Yep, they've caused a bit of damage. They've caused $2,000 worth of damage, and they've melted some signs, and they've flipped some cars.
As in cars that were not meant to be flipped.
I don't think so, you know. So, yeah, that'd annoy you a bit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a little tad.
But they've obviously want to go on the more practical effects of instead of CGI, which is good.
Which that sounds a lot better.
Which obviously with less damage, they've definitely done that, haven't they?
I don't know about the cars because if I don't know, it depends on how many there are. Like size, but 2,000 that's like chump change for them.
Yeah.
In terms of
It's like here you go, have that.
Sorry about that.
One more thing for films I saw was that this year's CinemaCon in Las Vegas, a lot of the attendees that were Chinese are not going to be attending this year because of coronavirus. Another one that's
COVID-19, I think they call it now, something like that.
COVID-19, yeah.
Now they've become serious, they have to give it a fancy title now.
Instead of being a light beer.
Yeah.
I'm getting killed by a light beer.
But I've seen a lot of stuff, obviously, because obviously the scale at it, of which it's gone now, like so many things getting affected. Obviously travel was the first thing, but now actually events, like a small thing was like the Sonic the Hedgehog, that film, they've not... I think it was meant to be released today in China, but they've postponed that because of the
coronavirus.
Reason. TV, Obi-Wan, the Disney Plus show about obviously one. A working title for it's called Pilgrim.
Okay.
And it's meant to be set between like Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, with obviously Ewan McGregor.
That's fair, yeah.
We've talked about it a few times, but they've now brought in that working title, and apparently. Just some more details. They said it was changed quite a little bit because apparently it had a lot of similarities to The Mandalorian.
Yep.
So delays. We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but about the delays. But this is a bit more info about. I think it's a bit too similar, so rewrite it, and it might be called Pilgrim. Okay. You?
I didn't get any TV stuff, but I've got game stuff. If you want to move on to that,
sure.
Just one of the things that at the end of February, 15 games are being released on the Nintendo Switch eShop, including three big ones: Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, along with a Game Boy Advance game called Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
Never heard of it.
Neither have I, but
no, I'm joking.
Pokemon.
I have heard of it.
But Pokemon.
Yeah. It's funny, I'll actually carry on that theme because I've actually got a couple Pokemon stuff.
Oh, go on.
Between the sad thing is, by the time this post, like it'll have gone.
Yeah.
But it's something of the week. Is that between the 27th and the 1st of March, there is in the new generation that's been released now, new Pokemon games. There's some sort of group battle thing where you and 4 others fight against one Pokemon that's meant to be massive or something like that. But as a special Pokemon weekend or something like that, they've done it as you and your mates can fight overpowered Mewtwo. Okay. Which I think is quite funny because apparently they just like set the Mewtwo to OP as anything. So it's like thrashing people as soon as they come across it. Which I think's quite hilarious.
No, you're dead. Sorry.
But it just gives flashbacks to memory. And the other thing, which is, again is Pokemon, but it's quite a nice thing. There was I don't know if he was a YouTuber or a streamer. He was a guy called Etika, or at least that's what his YouTube name was. And unfortunately, he committed suicide sometime last year. But he was a huge Nintendo fan, and I think that's what a lot of his content was around. Yep. And to commemorate that, in Pokemon Go, there's apparently things called Pokestops, or like where Pokemon Go is the one where you walk around and find things. Yeah. And there's meant to be like areas called these Pokestops, and they've named one after him in the game.
Oh, that's good.
So I thought that was quite nice of Nintendo. Just a nice little thing. Yeah. Anything else from gaming?
I've got nothing else news-wise.
Oh, cool. One other thing to do, like the releasing of games, was for PS Plus, where you can get free games every year. or every month or something like that. Shadow of the Colossus is the one for this year, which I don't know.
This month.
Isn't this month?
This month coming up.
In March.
Yes.
Which is rated as one of the best games. It's one of the best games of all time. So I think a lot of people should check that out.
Yeah.
And another sad one, but another one commemorative, is a guy called Kazuhisa Hashimoto, who was the guy who invented the Konami code.
Yeah.
Up, down, left, right, BA start. Unfortunately died. But it's just commemorating bringing in that code, because it was funny because I read into it, and apparently he invented it when he was testing a game called Gradius, I think it was, and he programmed that code into it to make himself overpowered, because the Konami code was one of the first cheats people ever used. But he was obviously programming things so that he was like overpowered, and so he could test games, test the games easier. And then when they shipped it, they forgot to remove that program or that program input, so it became the first cheat or one of the first cheats, which I thought was quite funny. And then obviously I think everyone knows, well, a lot of gamers at least will know the Konami code and how it's actually gone into a lot of things nowadays. I think it was Fortnite. There was I don't follow Fortnite at all really, but the change series, or they made a new map, and in the gap between changing the maps over, it was a blank screen, I think it was, or a black hole when people logged onto it. But if you put in the Konami code into that, you could bring up another game that you could have played, which I thought
that's quite cool.
Something that was recent. I say recent. This could have been like 3 months.
It was a little bit ago.
But anyway, any more news?
Nope, no more news.
Lovely. So going on to The Witcher. This one we're just going to go round about the houses really with it, like favourite stuff. Not going to go like episode by episode, but I'll just give a bit of background on my interest in it. We've talked about this so many times in this last 15 episodes, sort of like, but I played the third game, played it tons on Platinumed it, so I was very interested in this TV series and enjoyed it when it came out. You?
Yeah, like I said, I've played the game a little bit, not too much, but I played The Witcher 2 as well, and I really liked that. And I've also started to read the books as well, and I can see where it is. So obviously when I've read a little bit of the books, I mean, I'm only like about halfway through the first book, but I can see, like, from watching The Witcher, like, getting excited for it, but I can also see where they've got their the stuff from this season, because if you actually read the books and watch The Witcher, there's some of the stories about what he's done is actually in that book.
Yeah, because the CV series is based off the first 2 books, which is The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny. Yeah. I think like the first 4 episodes is The Last Wish. We can get to the one you're starting with. Yeah, I hope so. Anyway,
that is the one. I'm doing it in chronological order.
But yeah, first thing I'd say is I think Henry Cavill absolutely nailed Geralt.
Yes, definitely.
The hair, the voice especially, the build as well. Like, I think a lot of people already knew him.
In the game wise, he is meant to be. Well, in the game wise, he is a bit buff, isn't he? And obviously with him, he was also in Superman. Yeah. So he's obviously kept that physique. Yeah. But in the books wise, he's quite skinny. He's meant to be quite skinny. Yeah. He's meant to be like lean. Yeah. You know, toned and everything, but not buff. Yeah. But you can kind of glaze over that.
Yeah, because it makes it look better for TV.
It definitely does make it look better for TV. I mean, you don't want someone just like for TV like ugly and not skinny man. I not what you mean, but
because like in the books, he's, or at least as a Witcher, he's augmented by like mutagens and such like, and potions, and that's how he's stronger than average man and all this and that. So that works in the books, but in like TV or even the games to an extent, it's got to have that appearance of he's bigger, stronger than regular people. Yeah, like the first proper fight scene during episode 1, when he's against Renfri's men, where he's like just muscle bound guy against these several guys. You can believe that he's going to thrash them all, even though it's one guy versus 7 guys.
Because you can just see him and be like, he'll do them. He'll definitely do them. But he definitely nailed Geralt. I mean, like, he wasn't, I don't think, people's first choice or whatever, but he's definitely, when watching it, he's blown it out the water there, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I've seen several interviews, and he is a definite huge fan, both gaming fan and huge fan of The Witcher as well.
Yep.
Like, he knows the game and the books like inside out, so it's great. It's a great combination. Someone who's very passionate about the gaming aspect and the book side of it,
exactly.
being able to take that into doing the role itself as well, which I think obviously helps
the
role, and it's great as well for him, isn't it? Because he gets to do something he really loves.
Exactly, and he's part of something big now, because obviously with another season coming out, but not until next year.
Yeah, and this will go on for a while, I think.
Oh yeah, every like 2 years or something.
There's 7 books, is there?
There's 6 main ones. The 7th one's kind of like a short story, like in between some of them, but it's basically 6 main books.
So they've got, I think they want to go to 4 or 5 seasons, but like I said, they've got the material. And
oh yeah, definitely.
All that, and
it's there waiting for them compared to like say Game of Thrones, where they were working off it from what it was, but whereas all the books are there ready to go.
And I don't know how the game continuity works with it, because I think the games are set after the books.
Yeah.
Sort of. I've not read too much into it, so I could be talking rubbish now.
I'm not too sure about that, but
if that's so, because I don't think the Wild Hunt like appears in
the books. No, I don't think it does. No,
but they do. That's why I think it's a continuity. But I don't know if that's like canonized by the author, because they have I know we've talked about difficulties between like rights. The game studio are doing their thing with the rights to the games.
Yep.
So it's not technically canon to the author's universe.
Yeah.
But what I just want to say from that is that they've got opportunity to take it forward if they did something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
Because there is opportunity there, even if after they finish the books.
And
to
maybe push it on a little bit further.
Yeah. But I don't know. That depends on how they want to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, like saying like some of these stories, like the one that I can picture the most is from the books and from the actual series was in one of the first in the second episode, I think it was, when Geralt has to go and try and lift the curse of King Foltest's daughter. That was in the books, obviously. And
was that the Striga?
The Striga.
Was that episode 2?
I think episode 2, episode 3, something like that.
I think it might be episode 3.
Right.
I don't think it's
I
special.
was trying to remember it. But basically, like, pretty much that was completely followed. There was a few differences, like because reading the book, it didn't take you long to actually get through it, that actual story, whereas they made quite a lot of the episode about it, didn't they? I mean, it's a series, they're going to dramatise it a little bit and add people in that need to be.
How much is it? How is it set out? Because I've not read the books, so I'm going to get them at some point, but does it do the same thing as the series with the viewpoints? Like, do they change to Yennefer's viewpoint, to the Geralt's viewpoint, or has it just been Geralt to know?
In the books, Yennefer's not in it at all.
In the first book?
In the first book. There is nothing about her.
Why is it called The Last Wish then?
I'm not sure, but at this point where I am in the books, it's literally just following Geralt.
Oh, so you might not have...
So I might not have got to the point where Yennefer is, or if she's even in this book, I'm sure.
I think
she
must be.
It's
the
even
Last
in that,
Wish is... The Last Wish is about his wish to Yennefer, isn't it? Or the djinn to do with Yennefer, isn't it?
So basically, I've not got to the point where he's met Yennefer yet, but it's
pure Geralt.
It's purely just Geralt, and another part of it is Triss that he meets at this point. She's not in that either.
No.
He hasn't even met her yet. Yeah. And going on to Triss, what do you think?
I was both. I think she'll have a bigger role going forward.
Yeah.
But because of how... It's an interesting one because he's always going to be with Yennefer because one, the wish, and two, it's just how it is really because of the history.
Yep.
But I know in the games, it looks like Triss is his second love interest with quotation marks because there's a story number 2 which makes it sort of awkward, and I let people play the game to not sort of spoil that. But I wasn't surprised in the first season because they wanted to focus on the Yennefer Geralt stuff. Yep. But also there must be that opportunity for then later on. And I didn't think she was as big as she could have just been one of the other mages. Yeah,
but I feel like they maybe used her a bit too much at this point, and maybe not brought her in how they maybe more in the second season. But I also think she might have been miscast because Triss in the books, and as far as I'm aware, I haven't seen Triss in the books yet. And in the game, she's a redhead for one, and the way she is, she's like a bit conflicted, a bit insecure, stuff like that. That's how she should be. She's not really.
No.
I feel like they've maybe messed up a little bit with Triss and need to try and sort that out, because, like I said,
so would you say more getting scripting? Like she's been too like, because when you first meet her, she's like working with like the king and doing everything. And she's very regal, or she's very like in the games at least. But because I played the third one, I don't know how she's in the second one, but she must be the same because they do the same company. But like more like sure of herself, more confident, doing her own thing.
Well, in the second game, she's with him most of the time. Like when you start, you literally wake up with her in your tent. Oh. Because you haven't, like, Yennefer's not even in the second game.
Yeah.
Not even a thing. So, but it's like, she's not how I pictured Triss would be.
Yeah.
And I don't know how other people would feel like that.
I don't know how she's going to change that much if she's going to be like that in the next season to match what she's been in the books and the...
Because obviously, like, well, you'd have to see, obviously, how they make the seasons go, because obviously when it comes to the game, would they do what they did in the games and make it so that obviously he kind of forgets and goes more towards... You don't know, do you?
Yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, they could have left it for the next season, like, to introduce her, or at least
exactly change it a bit. But it's like as well when it comes to, like, say, like some of the stuff they've changed. I mean, it's not all of it's bad. Yeah. I mean, like, say with Geralt, he's meant to be obviously brash, but sometimes they can make him seem like he's more good in the series than he is really in the books, or in because sometimes he can be cold and calculating. Especially one that I can remember as well is when he invokes the law of surprise, because he does that in the series with as like a pass away kind of comment, doesn't he? Like, oh yeah, I'm going to invoke it anyway. But whereas in the book, he actually, and I'm up to this part now, he actually does it because he knows she's pregnant, and he's like thinking, witches are a dying breed. I want to train a witcher.
Right. Okay, that's very different than the TV series. Then. Yeah. Because that was more of a comedic moment in the TV series.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which was quite funny.
It was. Yeah. And look how it ended up.
I was a bit gutted about, I can't remember his name, but the mage who knew Geralt in that scene.
Mousak,
yeah, the way he died. I thought he'd be in it. I don't know if he's in the books. I doubt it. If
I've
killed him off straight.
I've only seen him once, maybe. I've read about him once. I've not got to part any yet.
I liked his character. I liked him when he appeared in there, and I thought it was a bit of a shame that he died off in the way he did. Especially if then the Doppler then proceeded to go, oh yeah, I actually, now that I've seen Ciri, like, I'm actually on her side to an extent. So I was a bit
great
about that. One thing that a lot of people who, well, even like me, because I obviously hadn't read the books and only done the games, was within the series timelines. It was like a confusing set of events up to about, I think, episode 4, which was like the wedding, which is when stuff pretty much clicked. It's just like, the queen's alive. This all makes sense now. Because it starts off like Geralt. No, Yennefer's set before Geralt. Which starts in episode 2 where Yennefer's introduced, and then it goes to Geralt in Blaviken. And then progresses like that. But in the very first episode, they show something that's set far ahead of both of their timelines with Ciri. And Ciri's is the present timeline.
It is,
and then both Geralt and Yennefer's is leading up to that. With the Yennefer's just behind Geralt's up to, I think, episode 5, which is the Jinn story. And then that.
Well, her timeline's over years, isn't it?
Decades.
Decades. So,
because I think it's decades to hundreds of years. Cause I think she says I've lived several lifetimes already by the time I meet Geralt. And I know Geralt lives decades anyway because of Witcher stuff. The time, I'm not quite sure. I've read up on it a little bit, but I can't remember it because I've not wrote it down. But I'm unsure of the timeline with Jaskier because they're meant to have known each other for a long time between these episodes.
Yeah.
Like, I think in the Jin one, Yasuke says, "I've not seen you in so many years since the wedding."
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure on how long.
It'd be a good few years then, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
At least. But it's like, obviously, he's not changed that much.
I know it's because of actors.
But obviously, there's only so much you can do with that. But it must be a few years at least with that.
Yeah. But then once you get your head around it, it's pretty alright. I know that was just a common thing why people actually dropped off the series, because they're just like, what is going on here?
Bouncing between the stories and everything.
Yeah. But to say that, there is the three storylines there of Geralt's, basically Geralt's adventures, really, aren't they? Up to like episode 6 episode 7 really, because episode 6 was the dragon one.
Yep.
With obviously the underlying Law of Surprise thing. Yennefer's journey from becoming a witch, being a witch, to trying to find out how she can get like fertility back.
Yep.
And then obviously the war story,
with
the
Ciri.
battle.
Yeah.
And then the third one's Ciri, present one, and hers is just trying to find Geralt, really, isn't it?
Being attached to him through the law.
Yeah. Who's your favourite character of them all?
I think it might be a toss-up between... I really like Geralt and how he is and everything, but I also like Jaskier.
Yeah, I like Jaskier as well.
I like Jaskier. He's quite funny, and just how he is.
Yeah, I wasn't sure of him at first, like during the first episode that he's in with the elves. But then grew on me over time, especially like during the wedding.
Yeah.
And then the Jin one. I thought it was a very good character. Obviously the classic toss a coin to your witcher.
That's very catchy.
It was very catchy and became a bit of a phenom, didn't it, after it came out?
Yeah.
Which something I found out was modders, people who go into the programming of games, not like who create the games, but like who buy the games and then mess about with the code to do their own things with it. They messed with the Witcher 3 code so they could put the song in it for certain scenes, which I think is...
That's pretty good.
That's great. Yeah, mine's the same really. Geralt I think's going to be at the top because of just how well Cavill did it, as well as being the best character in it, I think.
Oh yeah.
But the relationship between Jaskier and the scenes between them, I think were great. And
just starting to get a bit fond of each other, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, until it is a bit sad. The final scene between them is Geralt basically saying, "Sod off, you cause of all my misery," which I think is in episode 6, because Jaskier's only in it for 4 episodes.
4 of them, I think. Yeah.
He's not in the Striga episode.
No.
And then wedding, dragon thing, but so he's only in half of them, really, isn't he? But the scenes between them is hilarious. The fact that he's constantly going, "You're not my friend." He's just like, "Oh, would you let your friend put chamomile all over you?"
Yep. You are my friend, so shut up.
He's just a funny guy. What was his wishes when he thought he was the one who opened it? Just I want the Countess so and so to come back to me. I want the Count to die. And it's also funny in that episode with how his wishes, when you rewatch it or at least think back to Geralt on that first scene where he's just I just want some peace and quiet, and that's the reason for Jaskier choking up, so to speak. And then later on, I just what's this? Someone with his head exploding. I just want you to pop or something.
I wish your head would explode.
Yeah. It's a weird series because it's got its own little comedy thing. Especially, it's always that sort of things with cold characters like Geralt, where just not used to the environment, awkward. So especially in the wedding scene when with the manticore saying, "Oh, it must have been a special type of manticore." Just everyone's just calling BS on it.
Yeah. What?
Yennefer was an interesting one to do because, like I say, I've only had experience in the games and beautiful character in the game, and then when you first introduced to her, she's a hunchback, isn't she? She's, she's not what you expect.
No.
What was your first experience?
Like I said, with Yennefer, seen her in the games, beautiful and everything like that. I haven't seen her yet in the books, but obviously when you first meet her in the series, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
What? It's like, oh, well, this has got to change. But then when she actually does change, you can kind of see it, and you can see it over the actual episodes, her growing into the Yennefer that you definitely,
And the change they did, they must have done with the effects, like
yeah,
the makeup and everything were amazing. Must have been.
But you can tell from that they've definitely done the research into how Yennefer is, because I mean she's cold, she's calculating, she's just out for herself really, but she also kind of has a soft spot. Yeah. Especially for Geralt. I mean, she's got to at that point really, hasn't she? But yeah, and her performance definitely has blown it out of the water again. Like, she's proper gone into that role and taken it into her own.
Especially in the final scene when she's doing the fire, how wide her mouth went, and she was proper giving everything.
Giving everything, yeah.
I don't like I say this is only based off the first 2 books of 6, and I don't know how much they went through the second book as well.
Yep.
But it'll be interesting how her and Geralt's relationship go forward, because they didn't really leave on a great footing.
No, no, they don't.
Especially with Geralt after finding out that she wants kids, but the dragon guy basically said it's never going to happen. But him saying, and now I've got this kid that I've got to get because of Laura's surprise, just like,
sorry,
wrong time to bring this up, Geralt, wrong time. You've literally just found out about this kid stuff, just like,
oh yeah, just going to say,
I've got a free kid, basically. Pick your moments.
Yeah. Was not the right time at all. What do you think of the fight scenes? Because I think with the fight scenes, they're very graphic and they are very good.
They are very good.
I mean, I think they've had a bit more, like, I'm putting it against like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
With their first season, they didn't have a lot of money into it, so their fight scenes were quite basic. But when you come and look at these ones, they've gone all out.
I'll bring up, I think the best fight scene of the series is between the Renfrey / Blaviken fight, and the Striga fight, and we'll go into both of them. But the first one, let's go with the Butcher of Blaviken one, like when he's killing the men. That's all one take, which is impressive in itself. And I looked into the filming behind it, and how he did it was, the sword he's holding is actually cut in half, so it doesn't have a point. Okay. So he's holding half a sword, and that's so that he doesn't obviously whack people, and then they add the sword on afterwards. Okay. But like I say, that's all in one take, so every movement, everything has to be done, with the camera rolling all the time, going all the way up to the final head chop. Yep. So the choreography on that is amazing in itself. Oh yeah, the fact he did it all at once in a minute time, and how detailed the movements are as well. A good example is the crossbow aspect, where he deflects 2 crossbows. Like the first time I watched it, I only noticed 1. Yep. But he does 2. He does it at the start, and then when he's fighting another one, he does it like again. But it's so side to what he's actually doing. Like he's fighting the guy, it's only a side thing that he's doing that I didn't even notice the first time. But all of that, I think someone's thought of all that, put it into the motions where they've trained. But Cavill's doing it himself. He's doing the stunts himself. I think the only thing he didn't do was certain parts of the Renfrey stuff. Okay. Just because that was very technical fighting between 2 people. But just to think of how much effort it must have been to get like 7 people to do that. All of that. And do one. We talked about 1917 a couple of episodes ago, and talked about the one take and how difficult that must have been. But something like that, like, it's just impressive. It definitely is, yeah. I'm rambling a bit, but it's impressive as anything. The Renfrey one, was just technical, gorgeous to view. Yeah. Like, that was a different level of sword fighting than I've seen in other films. Even I cannot think of anything in Game of Thrones even that's better than that Renfrey fight, and that was the first episode. Sword behind the back, the one. And do you think skill level between Geralt and Renfrey, how would you say about?
What was it like comparing them? I mean, Geralt is very skilled. I think they're definitely a match for each other, because Geralt's obviously been brought up as a witcher for years and years, and he's actually plied his trade for years and years. You've got to learn to survive, especially as a witcher. And Renfri's the same. I mean, they tried to kill her, and then from there she went on to having to learn to survive. So it's kind of the same. Like, they've had to do what they've had to do. And they're very skilled and fighting each other. Just watching them, like, bringing all their skills in. It's brilliant.
I don't want to say what I'm about to say, because I don't want to bias you, but like, it seemed to me like Geralt was like holding back for the whole time of it, until I think she tried to stab him in the back with a knife.
Yeah.
She'd hold hand, and then within 3 times after that, when because all the time he's moving backwards into it, and it's only until the last bit when he starts moving forward, and it's gone within about 3 moves. So, because he's always, throughout the whole episode, he's been trying to help, trying to help.
Trying to be nice and stuff like that. He likes her.
And then I watched a thing with Cavill, and he said something along the lines of, when it comes to the point of she's trying to kill me, she's like, I want to help this girl, but this is not worth my life. And that's when he changes it and goes, I'm not messing about now, and just ends it pretty swiftly.
Definitely.
One thing I noticed when I first watched it, which I had a bit of a grimace about, was when he stops her with a knife, and he grabs her knife with his right hand to stop him stabbing him in the leg or the arse or whatever it was. Cuts his hand. He then switches to that hand to then finish the job. I had a bit of a grimace then, because he's just like,
"Are you sure?
Stings his hand.
That's going to hurt."
Yeah, a very impressive technical fight scenes. And then on the other side of it was the Striga fight, which I think was the biggest example of like having like a monster in it. It's not a person v person fight. It's not a sword fight. It's a fantasy fight, isn't it? It's using his signs, which is basically like magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know there's. I think it's technically magic, but I can't remember this.
It is.
It's like minor magic.
Yeah.
And then against the Striga, which is this demon thing
caused by a curse.
Yeah. I've not had to mention the wedding one. That's a good one as well. But anyway, but I think that was the most. I brought in a lot of extra stuff into it.
Yeah.
Like the chain, the signs, the potions I drink. The potions I drink.
I think it was like Wolfsbane or something like that. It was so he could see in the dark.
Well, I don't know. What's your difference between the two, like monster versus person v person?
When it comes to fighting people, I mean, obviously, like he's only doing it out of necessity, whereas when he's fighting monsters, it's his job. He's out there to kill them, so he goes all out. But honestly, with that one, with the Striga, he wasn't trying to kill him, which again is a hard thing. You've got to try and hurt it so it doesn't kill you and survive. I mean, because obviously with the Striga, he was trying to keep it out of its sarcophagus.
It's caught,
basically. Tomb.
Yeah.
Out of the tomb until sunlight, until the rooster crows like 3 times or whatever it was. And that's got to be hard. But obviously, like, because if he wanted to just go out and kill the monster, he would. It would be quick.
Yeah. Because that one had already killed a witch previously, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
But he said it himself in it. It was only because he didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And I saw people having a bit of issue with that, not with the Witcher dying, but a little bit. But it was more so that the guy had a Witcher, a wolf emblem or wolf medallion.
Yep.
And people were saying it shouldn't have been the wolf. It should have been a different school, because if you don't know, there's various Witcher schools.
Okay.
There's like a cat one, there's a wolf one, there's a bear one, there's a griffin one. There's a few of them. We started in season 2. They're bringing in some from the cat school.
Okay.
Because I don't know if it's in the books. I think it is though. The cat school was a Witcher school that turned into more assassins.
Okay.
And so they got a lot of stick by other Witcher schools. And as from the TV show already, the Witchers are dying out basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were some of the best fight scenes. Yeah. The wedding one, another great one. Especially when he chooses to get involved after he goes, it's a curse, and she's like, kill him, like this is all personal to me. Yeah. That was a very great one, and I really liked the king who gets involved. Yeah, I liked his character as well. He's like, this is laws, this is traditions, because he's from Skellige, and I don't know how much they do in The Witcher 2. Yeah. But in Witcher 3 they go like Skellige and they're all like proud, like Viking kind of characters, and just like all about tradition. So I think he did a really good job of like portraying that. They're saying, does anyone want to get to him? We're going to have to get through me.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a bit of a shame they died, so...
I know. Just gone.
Yeah. Do you have anything else with it?
No. I think I've covered everything that I've put down.
Yeah. Anything you want from going season 2?
Well, just have to see how it goes. I mean, like, I want to see more of Ciri and kind of go on her side of it, because I think with this season, her side of the story has been the weakest. Yeah. So I want to see what changes between them, because obviously they've met each other, but they already kind of knew each other in a way. I mean, because obviously she asked and said, "Who's Yennefer?" Yeah. But he obviously, with it all, he trains her to be a Witcher too. So I want to see how that changes in season 2. Are they going to go forward a little bit in time? What they're going to make of it? I'd like to see something along those lines and see what happens with Geralt and Yennefer.
Yeah. I think that'll go. That's really all that. I think that will happen, because I don't know if books happen. Keep saying that we don't know what happens going into the books, but I think that'll be like season 3 or 4, like for the actress to like grow up a bit. Yeah. So she can actually do more physical stuff. Because I think by the time, at least the game wise, like by the end of those, she's like the most OP character in the entire universe, basically. Yeah. In the Witch universe, I should say. Like I say, a bit more Triss, depending on how they portray her going forward. More monsters, I think that'd be good as well. Yeah. More variety, because
there was a few, but there wasn't many, was there?
No. Maybe budget wise, but I don't think so. I think it was just they did a good job of what they did. It was story, it was everything. In fairness, they did like a different monster every episode. Even the first scene of the first episode was that Kirikou or I can't remember.
Kikamora.
The big spider.
Yep.
That was a really good spectacle. And
just to start it off.
And just like, and then the poor deer. It's not your day. Aww. What else would there be? I talked to Marvin about this a couple of episodes ago, but to do with the castings that were released. Yep. A lot of them I don't know. Pretty much all of them I don't know. But the characters that come in, like Eskel, Lambert, they're coming into it. Vesemir's not been mentioned. So still crossing fingers for Mark Hamill. Still crossing them, but
we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just trying to keep it quiet for now.
If they did get Mark Hamill, that is definitely what they would do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I'm happy to see that more witches getting introduced to it, especially those two characters, because they're funny in the games and they're great characters. And I'd be interested in it if in a later season they bring in like Letho, who's, well, I won't spoil it, but he's a big part of like the second game into, and part of the Wolf School. Yeah. But yeah, anything else? I think that's pretty much it.
I think that's it.
And I think I've said this exact phrase a few weeks ago, but this is the last time we'll talk about The Witcher for a while.
Yep. Possibly.
So, just to finish off a little bit, we had a bit of a Who's On podcast a few weeks ago, but to go again, we're going to have a bit of a Who's On, What's On kind of thing with Ryan, because he's trying to be a pilot. So, and we've talked about this a lot of time, obviously, going into it. Yeah. A lot of stuff annoys me, and I'm not even trying to be a pilot. So I thought it'd be interesting for people who either are interested in the topic, not interested, don't know, or wanting to be a pilot, or along those same lines in the future. I thought it'd be interesting. So I think a very easy way to start off, even though this sounds a bit more like job interviewing, is why do you want to do pilot? be a pilot? Do piloting stuff.
Do piloting stuff.
Do all that flying business.
It's always interested me. I've always, when I've been a kid and everything, it's always interested me like planes and how it works and being actually the person to operate it. To be up there in the sky, it's just my dream. That's what I've always wanted to do and will strive to do it. And
I mean, not to make us sound old, but I've known you for like just over 12 years now.
Yep.
And it's been pilot ever since then.
Yep.
And probably before then.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been in the making for a long time.
It's been in the making for a long, long time, trying to get there. And it's just that I've been trying to do it. I've always wanted to do it. It's nothing more as it like pulled me in. I've looked at jobs and it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. This is what I want to do with my life. And I guess like the lifestyle of it as well. Like I get to travel, see different places. Not to mention like every day is going to be different. Going to different places. There's danger in a way that like keeping me on my toes is a way. Using my skills. I mean, because it's not just like a job where you're just a 9 to 5, you just sat in an office and everything.
There's a huge amount of responsibility.
Like, the
amount
definitely.
of lives that you've got to have on a plane. Depending on where you fly. If you're just doing like a small seater thing, then 2 or 3, but you're doing commercials, so hundreds potentially.
But even when you're flying just a small seater, it's still so much fun. It's ridiculous. Like you're in charge of your own aircraft. You're flying. Like how many people can say that they can do that all the time and get paid to do it as well?
So going to what's the different ways to be a pilot?
There ain't many.
No.
There's not many. One of the ways you could do is military.
Yep.
So you could go.
For us, it's RAF.
For us, it's the RAF. But for anyone, it could literally just be go into into the military and fly. And then once you've done your service there, come out, and then you've got to still pay for like a conversion kind of course. Get those, and then from there you can be taken on by the airlines. Some airlines as well do schemes where they'll literally be like, are you an ex-military pilot? Apply for us and we'll pay to get you converted and trained up. So that's one way. I looked at that way, but when I looked at it, it said with the RAF I've got to be in there for 14 years before I can leave. And I was thinking, do I really want to do that? Do I want to be in the military for 14 years before I can come out and do commercial? Because at the time I would have been like 32 when I was coming out. That's still 9 years away for me. It's a long time.
You're still young though.
I know I'm still young, but it's the case of it is a long time to be
This
gone.
is just say it wasn't right for you, but for people like
for some people it could be, definitely.
Especially with the financials, which we'll go on to in a minute.
The other way that it's more in the past now, but it's airlines opening up their own schemes and paying for everything. So literally you'll go apply, they'll look at everything, they'll test you, assess you, and then they'll be like, right, you're the one for us, we're going to start you up from scratch, you've got no flying experience, we'll take you up all the way to the right hand seat of an aircraft. Like I said, that's more in the past now. Most airlines used to do it, but in the wake of low cost carriers like Ryanair, EasyJet, Wizz Air, and also something that definitely hurt, it was 9/11, because that caused a massive decrease in people flying. So with that, it's now moved on towards the actual student paying for everything. The way I'm looking at it is what's called an integrated course. So it'll be full-time studying at a flying school, possibly going into programs with, because airlines still do programs, but you have to pay for them. But you get a guaranteed job at the end of it.
When you do the program through a sponsored position.
Through a sponsored position, it'll be done by a flying school, and then you'll move, but you'll be like watched by the airline. And then you'll have like a mentor at the place who will talk to you and help you out. And then from there, you'll go to the airline who'll then train you up on the aircraft of their choice of what they've got. and then you'll get into the job.
But you can also do the flying school without that sponsored position,
yes.
assuming that you meet criteria.
Exactly, yeah. You can just go to the flying school once you've been assessed by them, and they can be like, right, you can do your stuff with us, but you obviously again have to pay for that, and there's no guarantee of a job at the end of it. Some flying schools, especially some of them here in the UK, just literally they'll teach you and then send you off.
Yeah.
They won't help you get that job. That's down to you.
Yeah.
Another way that could be possibly done is a modular way. So you literally, as you're working, you could just do parts of the courses, which is cheaper. Which is actually cheaper. I know someone who did it and it cost them about £60,000. Whereas if you do it in an integrated way, the general gist is about £100,000 to £120,000.
Yeah.
But obviously that it could take years for you to do that.
Yeah.
It all depends on how much you work, what time you've got. Because some of these modular courses you're gone still for like 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. And your access to finance as well.
Because that can take 10 plus years.
Yeah. And then can you do a private pilot? Like, I know there's such thing as a private pilot license, but is that separate from like being able to do commercial?
No, that's like the first step. So your private pilot's license, your PPL, is just there for like you flying to start off with, you getting into it.
Yeah.
So you'll learn like the basics. You'll fly light aircraft, like 2 to 4 seaters, and then from there, once you've got your PPL, you can move on towards what's called a CPL, which is a commercial pilot's license.
Yeah.
And then from there, you'd have to do more to get what's called an ATPL, which is an airline transport pilot's license, which gives you then the actual qualifications to fly commercial aircraft with passengers. The integrated and modular courses are at the end of it ATPLs, but some airlines have gone to what's called an MPL, which is a multi-pilot's license. So it's kind of like a cheaper way, but it's more suited to that airline. Whereas an ATPL is any airline, an MPL is just, we're going to get you into the first officer's seat of an aircraft through our methods. And so, say if you just had that MPL, you can't be a captain.
Yeah.
You've got to then do an ATPL after so long.
So is the benefit of doing something like a modular integrated as opposed to doing yourself a PPL is you're with flight schools, so you're more likely to be accepted by airlines because they know the reputation of the flight schools. Yeah,
because some of the flying schools obviously have big like partnerships with airlines who are always coming in, watching your training and interviewing you. Yeah. Whereas if it's like the modular stuff, you've got to do everything yourself and go to them and prove to them.
Yeah. So just go through them. So we've got like military.
Yep.
And then we've got not private. So we've got integrated course.
Yep.
Which is about 120 grand. Modular, which is 60 grand, but takes longer. And then private. Any idea how much that costs for someone?
But it's still the same because the modular would go with the private pilot's license.
Yeah. And then what's the sort of differences in criteria? Obviously, military is probably higher standard, but you've read through it. Yeah,
military is definitely a lot more high standard, especially with the RAF. Like, there's not a lot of places. It's very hard to get in. Again, depending on what you were going in to fly as well. Yeah. Because, like, say if you wanted to try fast jet, that's 4 years of training, and then you actually start your flying. Yeah. But it's also the case of like you could be in a holding pool in the RAF at another job to be a pilot for years before you actually do that, and then you've got to do the 14 years as well. Yeah.
I know the biggest remover of people, I think, there's probably a better word than that, is probably the eyesight thing. Yeah. With the RAF, I don't know if it's as strict with like the flight schools.
It's not with a flight school and just being commercial. With military, you need 20/20 vision. Yeah,
it's very
cut and dry.
Yeah.
Whereas with commercials, it's not. You can be wearing glasses. It's just a case of, does it impair your vision that much? Yeah. No. Is it within certain like minus and plus? Yeah. Short and they do a strenuous tests on it. I mean, because I've had to have a medical to be able to be seen and fit found fit enough to be a pilot, and they do a lot of tests, and a big part of it was the eyesight.
And I know of people who about that eyesight thing, because that can be a proper. It was and still is a proper killer of dreams, basically, because a lot of people like are passionate about wanting to be in the military and as pilot or something like that. I did some reading into it that they're slowly accepting laser eye surgery with certain criteria. So if you're wearing glasses at the moment, but you want to do piloting, this is not to give you hope potentially, but it's read into it to see what options there are, because I think there's still tight criteria, because this is only a new thing. It's something like before your surgery, or before, if you're contemplating it, your eyesight still can't be past certain boundaries. And then I think you have to wait like a year or 2 years from your eye surgery to then apply to them. So I'd say for people who have cut themselves off from military straight away, read into it first, because not leniency, but the more open-minded.
Yeah, they're definitely getting more open-minded about like the techniques to be able to correct your eyes.
Yeah. So we've talked about the cost of such things, which is so first, there's no loan system in place.
Kind of is. It's with banks, really. It's not with like
I'm talking more like uni.
Yep.
There is a student finance system.
Yep.
For someone wanting to be a pilot, there is no airline fund loan system, is there?
No, not really. There's some airlines, some banks, again, used to be like that. They used to have like a thing like, oh, you're going for airline training, right, there's this certain amount of fund we can give. But especially in the UK now, there's nothing. There is nothing really. You've got to do it through other means of loans. I mean, I've applied for, I'm going to a flight school in Spain, and there was 3 banks in Spain that do loans for airline training, but they're only for Spanish residents. So that doesn't work. And like I said, in the UK, there isn't really anything. So it's more like loans you've got to do through, the main thing is property. And having guarantors stand for you while you do your training, which can put a lot of pressure on people. And especially it rules a good few people out if you've not got anything.
I'd say a huge
good few people out for those that don't actually say own any property. If they're just renting or something, you've got nothing that you can put against your house.
Because you're in a fortunate position, because you've got family members who have access to banks and such like. So, but a lot of people, imagine, have to wait years in order to save up either a certain amount of money or being able to access a certain amount of credit from banks in order to access this sort of thing, to start at a younger age or something like that, don't we? So, because what are different? Is it only loan? Well, it must be only loan, or just spend it. Yeah,
that is literally it.
Both of which takes tons amount of time.
Tons amount of time and tons of money. Unfortunately, being a pilot it's really a rich man's game. Yeah,
because I've read, like, I started this off by saying some aspects annoy me, and this is one of the aspects that annoy me. It's a very segregated, or at least
it doesn't. When being a pilot, it's not more about your ability. It's more about, can you pay for it?
Who you know, connections, what you've got, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is unfortunate, because it should not be like that at all.
I think it's a very rubbish way of going.
Because there's so many people that would be good pilots, but they can't afford. They just cannot afford the training and to be able to do it. Which is obviously, it's unfair. But that's just how the way it is at the moment.
The thing that annoys me most about it is the fact it's not based off your own life, basically.
No.
You're relying on, potentially, unless you've come up with a genius idea, by which point, if you'd come up with a genius stuff, an idea to make 100 grand, you're probably not going to be a pilot. But you're relying on parents or other family members in order to have done enough in their lives to be able to afford to send you to go. Like, it's a very annoying thing, I found. And you're living it, but I found it very annoying when I first talked to you about it. Especially people like living suburbs, like middle class, low class, like social groups. It's going to be, if anyone from that is as passionate as you, but not in your fortunate situation, they're going to have to wait probably another 10 years to have worked in another industry or job in order to save up or, like I say, get access to that credit line. So I hope at some point something changes or more access, because I think you've talked like Aer Lingus. I think they've done 1 or 2 rounds of it, haven't they?
Yeah, they do quite well with theirs. I mean, they just open it up and then they don't really say much about the funding, but it's more like it'll be we'll fund it and then we'll take out your wages and you've got to work for us for a certain amount of time.
Because this is one of the ones you're talking about was like from the older day.
Yeah.
They would actually fund it for you.
Yeah.
So anyone can really apply for it.
Yeah, it's just that you'd have to be at that airline for a certain amount of time, and if you left, you'd have to pay it all back.
Yeah. Is there any other airlines like that?
Not that I've seen, to be honest with you. No, I don't, like say, UK, EU-wise, there isn't really. I mean, there could be in other countries I haven't looked into, because let's say like at this flying school that I'm going to, they do have a partnership with Qatar Airlines, Qatar Airways, and I looked at their scheme. Doesn't say much about funding at all, but it does say you have to be a Qatari citizen. So again, which is not surprising. So they're just trying to do homegrown pilots.
Do we have, like you said a couple of times, your flight school is in Spain? Is there any flight schools in the UK?
Yeah, there's the main 2 are L3 and CAE Oxford, and they're okay schools. They are okay, but like their costs as well can be quite high. And they're not as integrated, I guess, with other airlines. Like L3 apparently just churns pilots out, whatever, but it's more like there's a lot of them people going to it, and it doesn't kind of help you because you need kind of one-to-one at times. But with so many students, you don't get the ability.
Okay, so let's go into. So you're going to one in Spain.
Yep.
What's your expected training to be like whilst you're there? Like timeline, work, is it study?
It's completely, it's all study. It's 14 months of training, so 62 weeks, I believe. For the first, I think, 10 to 20 weeks, it's ground school. And then from there, you go on to learning how to fly single engine for a few weeks. And then you do the first part of the ATPL exams. From there, it's then you learn to fly, because as most commercial airlines are, they are 2 engines or more. So you'd learn single just to get used to how to fly and everything. And then you'd move on to multi-engine aircraft. And then you do the second part of the exams. And this is by like week 58, so you're near the end. And then the last 4 weeks is a course called MCCJOC, which is multi-crew course, jets orientation. So it's basically you learning to fly the planes with someone else, because every commercial airline has 2 pilots. So you've got to learn. You've learned now how to fly the plane on your own, do everything. You've now got to learn how to kind of give up some stuff and work together to fly the aircraft. And then after that, depending on what have you got an airline or whatever, you'll then go to the airline, who'll then do what's called a type rating. So a type rating is a specific aircraft. You're then licensed to fly that, because every aircraft is different to fly. There's different things to do, different things to learn. The systems are different. So
like someone who's got a pilot's license of any variation, they can't just wave that at another plane and go, oh, I've got a license. No. They have to be specially trained for that
aircraft. So like the main 2 manufacturers of aircrafts are Airbus and Boeing.
Yeah.
Airbus pilots can't fly Boeing aircraft unless they're certified on both.
I mean, it's exactly like a driver's license, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
You have the back of the card and it has various classifications that you can drive a normal car, but you can't drive a lorry.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same with that. I mean, but even in, like, say, Airbus aircraft, they've got multiple aircraft. You can't fly them all. The systems are pretty similar, but due to like size, weight, differences like that, new technology, it's different.
Yeah.
So you'd have to learn. But each airline obviously has their own aircraft that they've chosen.
Yeah.
So then they train you on that, and they take that out of the wage again if you've gone straight to them. And then from there, it's then online training.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're in the flight then. Or if you haven't actually got an airline, you've then got to start applying and doing more assessments.
So when you're going on this 14th month, like, you've not currently got a place with a school with an airline, but there's still potentials there. Yeah. At what point during the teaching would you be applying for jobs? Do you know yet? Or
no, I don't know yet. Because like I said, it could be because of how many partnerships that this specific school has. They're always coming in and interviewing students and watching the training and seeing who they like.
It's like football scouts, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or airline scouts.
And then, like, halfway through your training, you could just have had an interview with some airline. They come up to you a few days later saying, "We want to take you on."
Okay.
And then from there, you'll be one of their students. Like, you'll still be learning. Nothing will have changed. It's just literally at the end of it, you're now with that airline. Yeah.
And I think you've said with certain airlines, they pay for a small amount, but not
nothing huge. No,
like 10 grand out of 120 grand, something like that. But the main advantage or benefit is the guaranteed job at the end of it.
Because then you've obviously got this debt that you've got that you need to pay off.
Yeah. So I'm very much hoping, both for you and your family members, that at the end of it you're not like, I don't actually fancy piloting.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
I think you would get chased down.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
I would not live.
A couple of things, other things I want to go on to, like at the end of the flying thing, but one thing, you currently work at an airport, don't you?
Yep.
I'll let you describe like what you actually do as opposed to me bumbling around.
Well, my the job title is dispatcher, so I'm in charge of the turnaround of the aircraft when it comes in to when it goes back out.
Yeah.
I make sure the right amount of passengers, fuel, and bags and cargo or whatever's on, and that the aircraft is in the right balance. So I do the weight and balance of the aircraft to ensure that it can fly and it's got the right documentation to fly. Yeah. So with that job comes like I'm open like to seeing all of how it works, how it speaking to everyone. Yeah. And it definitely does help. Like if you wanted to say that, like being in the job that I'm in, it opens your eyes. You learn stuff about the actual industry before you go into being a pilot, because a lot of the people say like the rich kids and stuff, they're just going into it because the dads or mums or whatever have paid for it. They won't know about this part. They'll just think, oh, just flying, sorted. But they won't know like dealing with all the different people that you'll see on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, you mentioned earlier like you've seen other jobs and like they've not appealed to you, but that seems odd to me because you've never seemed to have considered anything else, because everything you've always done has been lingering towards it. Like you did air cadets for God knows how long, and then this job you're doing at the moment, I'm sure you enjoy it, but it's also you've been doing it for 4 years or something.
4 years now, yeah.
That's all structured around learning the industry, isn't it? All towards that final thing of doing piloting. Yeah. Like, it's a stepping stone. Like everything for the last 12 years longer has always been some sort of thing towards the piloting stuff, hasn't it? Which I think you need to do, really. Especially
definitely, yeah.
Because like,
I don't see myself sitting in an office. I don't want that kind of thing to do. I'd be bored out of my head. Sorry, but it's not for me.
So, working in the airport, are you the person to blame for all the delays and
Yes.
the person to shout for?
Most of the time, yes. People shout at me. I just pass the blame on. I do. That's my job. I pass the blame on because obviously when it goes late, I've got a full list of different codes for delays, and I just go, that happened, therefore it's their delay. It's never my fault.
And
never my
the
fault.
funny thing with yours is you're not the customer service aspect of it. So you're not the person who's got the person shouting in the face, unless they've actually stormed through, I imagine, and found you.
Yep. So most of the time, nope, I'm not the one shouted at.
You've got one passionate person who's gone, I'm going to find the actual
I'm going
person.
to find that guy with a tie there. I'm going for him.
So to switch back to you at the end of the flight thing, so we've talked about you're not guaranteed a job unless you've either been sponsored or in the middle or after you've applied.
Yep.
With that being said, there must be a lot of variation on where you could be placed, especially with flying itself being an international thing. There must be a lot of either opportunity or variation on where you could have your home base at.
Yes, depending on the airline that you go to. I mean, at the end of the day, it'll have to be I go where the work is, where the jobs are. Simple as really. Whatever I can get, I will take, because you've just got to. Yep. I mean, like say, one of the airlines that I've applied for was Flybe. I could get based here, home in Manchester, or I could be based at any of their other bases, and they've got quite a few. Aberdeen, Glasgow, Birmingham, East Midlands, London, places like that. I could be anywhere. Or I could go for another airline that's abroad and just go there. One of my friends who I used to work with at the airport, he had already done his training and was just looking for a job. He applied for Aer Lingus, so that would have been based in Dublin. He didn't get it. He then got a job for Royal Brunei Airlines. So he now lives in Brunei. In Asia. He's gone. He's out there. It's the same kind of, like, I'd say, with cabin crew as well, because I know people that we used to work with at Thomas Cook who are now working now for Virgin Atlantic, British Airways. Some people even went for Qantas in Australia, but they'd be based at Heathrow, which helps. But it's the case of you have to go where the job takes you. There's nothing else that you can do.
So we talked a lot about not so much the negative side, but more like the realities of what it takes to be a pilot. What's the first thing that everyone's going to ask is what's the monetary benefits to what's the salary when you come out? What's the expected progression?
Well, again, it depends on the airline, how much they earn and you earn and stuff. But a solid number, I'd say, maybe a first officer. Well, you'd be classed as a first officer, 2 stripes when you first go in. That could be anywhere between 20 to 40k a year. Then you'd get senior first officer, which is 3 stripes, and that could be anywhere from 30 to 70 odd. And then captain, being in charge of that aircraft. Again, could be anywhere from 50 to into the 6 figures, depending on the airline. But that again, a lot depending on the airline is how fast that progression is, because some of the smaller low cost airlines could take you only 3 to 4 years to be a captain, whereas from what I know, Thomas Cook, when they were around, the progression from first officer to captain was on average 12 years. Which is a long time.
The basic example you might know from obviously working in the airports side, the biggest difference I'm thinking of is Ryanair and United Arab Emirates. I imagine there's a huge difference in terms of pay. Well, in terms of everything, between two, progression, pay, all that between the two.
Oh, definitely, Emirates, I mean, it'd take a while probably to be a captain, and you'd get paid a lot for it, again, because that depends on where they live. I mean, I know with Emirates and stuff, where they are in the UAE, don't know if it's the case now, tax-free salary, no tax whatsoever. Whereas Ryanair, this has changed now, but they don't get paid a massive amount. But what used to happen, which doesn't happen anymore, is that they weren't paid on the ground. They were only paid when they were up in the air. And that included the cabin crew as well.
That seems very weird, because that's not a salary, that's more like freelance, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is very
strange.
And by what you're saying is they've stopped that now.
Yeah, they've stopped that now.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that. Just
no.
Not even reading into it, but even just the concept of that happening seems very dodgy.
Unsafe.
Yes.
Unsafe, because their turnaround time on the ground is 25 minutes.
Yeah, because they need to rush to get in the air.
They need to rush to get back up into the air because so they can get paid. So if there's any like technical issue, they don't care.
Yeah.
In a way, they want to just get up and go and fly.
So obviously monetary. I think that's in any job really. That's the first thing people look towards.
It's a very rewarding job.
Second thing is obviously the travel aspect, which you've mentioned. Yep. I think just have a quick breakdown between short haul and long haul. I'm pretty sure everyone will know.
So short haul to mid haul is like up to 5 hours. So if you're if you're working for a short haul airline, most of the time you'll stay at one base.
Yeah.
You'll just be doing flights there and then flights back.
So could you give an example of 2 cities?
Well, say like Manchester to Alicante.
Yeah.
So you could be just doing a Manchester to Alicante, Alicante back to Manchester. That's your day done.
Alicante, Spain, for those who may not know.
Other airlines say, like Flybe, their crew have to do what's called a certain amount of sectors of flying hours. Yep. So they have to do 4 sector days. So what they could be doing is doing Manchester to Charles de Gaulle, Charles de Gaulle to Manchester, Manchester to Amsterdam or something like that, and then Amsterdam back to Manchester. So they'll do 2 flights. But because of obviously their short time of hours, they don't have to stay anywhere because of their crew hours being fine. Whereas if you're on long haul, which is international, like travelling anywhere in the world, you'd have to like stop over for a certain amount of time to get your certain amount of rest that you need. So like at work, I work with Etihad Airways, and their flight time's generally around like the 7-hour mark. You can't make them go back. Yeah. So they have to spend one night here. Yeah. And then fly back the next day. Some other places, again, it depends on how far you're flying. They could be spending 3-5 days. Like Thomas Cook, their crew, Manchester, like Vegas, 5 days. They got 5 days in Vegas, all paid for. Yeah. What's not to love about that?
I'd say the only other thing is there anything since you've been applying that you didn't know before, like that you think would surprise people who are thinking about it, like in school or in college, they've not started it yet?
Like you need a good understanding of like maths and everything as a general thing. You need to have good problem solving skills, and generally sometimes like it could be out of your control. Yeah. Another thing I could say is that airlines will say that this is what they want, but really in fact they want more. Because like I found out that the Aer Lingus ones, really when I applied for it, because it was like integrated, they were paying for most of it. They kind of weren't really looking at anyone that had qualifications lower than a degree. So they'd humour you, and they'd see how you are. But if you're not good enough or up to a standard, they'll look at the qualifications, go, you've not got a degree, so no. And in a way, like I said, out of your control. If you go for a medical and they find that because what's called a class 1 medical, it's the highest medical you can get, it can find anything, any little niggling thing. I mean, I got mine, you could get it on the day when you do your assessment, and mine had to be delayed by a week to find out, because they had to get a cardiologist to look at my heart. Because when they did, I can't remember what it's called, the actual machine, but when they were looking at my heart rhythm, there was one of my rhythms that was a bit longer than average, and so they had to get a cardiologist to look at that and then sign it off to say he's fine. They can find anything. So if something finds, unfortunately it's hard, but there's not much you can do with that.
I think I'll finish on this quite funny point, which is about when I think everyone's gone to trying to get through an application process and complaining about having to go and have an interview somewhere, not getting it, and then going, oh god, I've just wasted a train ticket. It looks like, and you're interested in potential situation that's coming up.
Yep.
With the
Vueling Airlines, possibly having to have an interview in Barcelona.
So,
and I mean, when I did my Aer Lingus one, I had to travel to Dublin.
Yeah.
So
the travel aspects, like where you've had to go in order to get through the application process, where like everyone's had it, where you've got to get a train up and down the country, but literally having to travel to a different country to do an interview when you might not get it.
Exactly. Off your own back
is hilarious from my perspective of you, but it's again it's another restriction, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Another big expense potentially.
Yeah.
Especially with the flight times may not do well for you, or many other factors. But that should be fun.
Yes.
Anything else you want to mention about that? Or?
I think we've covered quite a lot of that.
Really did pretty well with that. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to leave a review, that would be great. And we're on social media at Twitter @_WhatsOnPodcast and Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook @the What's On Podcast. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.